Okay, so we are all ready to go.
All right, thank you. Are you, Amanda, just before we begin, are you going to hand off, are we going to be co-hosts or are you going to just host everything?
So I've handed you off to, you're the co-host. So I was just going to be the host so that I can rename people and things like that if you need any assistance.
Okay, okay, I'm just going to just do one thing and just see if that works or not. Hold on, 2 secs. Ben. Okay, yeah, no, I'm good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call to order. I call to order this public hearing at 6 p.m. for Monday, July 13th, 2020. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the shared traditional land of the Coast Salish people. 2, opening statement. This public hearing is convened pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act to allow the public to make the representations to council respecting matters containing in the following proposed bylaw. City of Colwood Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1700.03/2020, Latoria South Sub-Area Plan, and Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151/1989, Amendment number 174, Comprehensive Development Zone CD28, Latoria South, Bylaw number 1825/2020. All persons who believe their interest is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given an opportunity to be heard or present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. You will not be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. Each person will be given an opportunity to speak. When all in attendance have spoken once, additional opportunities will be provided to speak again during the public hearing. Prior to speaking, please clearly state your name and address. The function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. After the public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at the hearing. Please be reminded that there will be no other opportunities to speak to the bylaw. The opportunity is now. 3, introduction and background of the bylaw. I will invite Mr. Carlson, our planner, to introduce the proposed bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. The general purpose of the proposed City of Colwood Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1700/03/2020, Latoria South Sub-Area Plan, is to amend the Royal Bay Plan contained within the official community plan and create the Latoria South Sub-Area Plan. The Latoria South Sub-Area Plan will include land use policies and design guidelines specific to Latoria South. In addition, the Latoria South Sub-Area Plan will include a policy limiting the total number of dwellings within Latoria South to 2,100. The general purpose of the proposed Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151, Amendment number 174, Comprehensive Development Zone CD28, is to amend the current Colwood Land Use Bylaw to create a comprehensive development zone for lands in Royal Bay described as Latoria South. The comprehensive zone will contain permitted uses and development regulations for 10 sub-areas within the comprehensive development zone. At the third reading scheduled for council July 15th, council will be requested to consider amending the CD28 zone bylaw to limit the amount of non-residential floor area to 40,000 square meters. The notification period was from June 30th until today. During this time, the public hearing binder was available by appointment at the front counter, but was also provided digitally on the city's website. Notices were placed in the Times Colonist on July 6th and 7th, and in the Goldstream Gazette on July 8th. Neighborhood notices were sent out to approximately 169 properties within 75 meters of the subject property. 49 responses have been received, 39 were generally in support, and 10 were opposed. That concludes the statement from the planning.
Thank you. We will then move on to 4 presentations. I believe we have, forgive me if I get your names wrong, Dan Hung, is it Hung? I'm hoping I got that right, from Urban Systems and Lance Floor with Gablecraft Homes to make their presentation regarding Royal Bay and Latoria South.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
We can, Dan.
Great.
Or
Thanks very much.
Just Lance.
It's Dan, actually. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan Huang. I'm a senior planner with Urban Systems. I will be presenting this evening with Lance Floor, president of Gablecraft Homes. We're also joined tonight on the call by Ben Mycroft, senior development manager for Gablecraft Homes. We're very pleased to present our application for the Latoria South sub-area plan for an OCP amendment and rezoning at tonight's public hearing. The vision for Latoria South neighborhood has been almost 2 years in the making, working closely with the community, city staff, and council. Building upon the success of Latoria North, we believe that Latoria South will really begin to unlock the potential of Royal Bay as a complete community by bringing the commercial amenities, employment opportunities, parks and trails, transportation connectivity, and mixture of housing choices that make a neighborhood livable and vibrant. A couple of points of clarification as we begin our presentation. Firstly, the Latoria South sub-area plan only deals with lands that are west of Metchosin Road and south of Latoria Boulevard. And secondly, while Lance and I really tried to stick to the metric system, it was really hard given all of our development concepts are in square feet and acres. So if you bear with us tonight, the majority of our development figures will be expressed in square feet and acres, except for reference to OCP policies, which will be in metric. The planning context for Latoria North is founded in the city's official community plan, which designates a portion of Latoria South, as well as a portion of lands across Metchosin Road as Seaside Village. This is an intended growth area, one of 2 major city centers where the majority of new growth is anticipated, supported by a mixed-use environment integrated with the transit network. Sorry, before I keep going, did my slide go forward?
Yes, it did.
Great, thank you. In 2018, the Colwood OCP was updated with significant community input, which both reaffirmed the intended growth area of the Seaside Village, as well as set even higher targets for potential densities and mixed uses. It is through this enhanced policy direction, coupled with confidence in the market and city leadership, that a more robust, exciting land use framework for Latoria South began taking shape. Plans for Royal Bay have been evolving over 2 decades. The most recent Royal Bay Area Plan, developed in 2014 by the previous owners of the entire site, laid the initial building blocks for Latoria North, as well as introduced the desire for additional planning at the sub-area level for the remaining lands. With ownership of the lands now separated into 2, it made sense to undertake the Latoria South sub-area plan process for the remainder of the lands owned by Gablecraft Homes. Our plans for Latoria South have been shared with the community through advertising, social media, direct mailouts to nearly 2,000 households, and at 3 open houses and a pop-up event, attended by a total of nearly 750 residents and community members. Last week, we submitted to the city a summary of the community feedback to date as part of the public record for our application. We would be pleased to submit it again tonight as part of the public hearing process. It is through this community feedback which has shaped our development plans and provides us with the encouragement to move forward with commercial amenities in the first phase of Latoria South. The Latoria South sub-area plan, coupled with a new comprehensive development zone, CD28, is the subject of tonight's public hearing, which will provide the necessary OCP and land use amendments to see our vision come to reality. As guided by the OCP and framework for the community, the Latoria South land use concept is based on a number of key planning principles. A vibrant urban village, which will contain numerous commercial amenities for everyday needs. This is in distinction to the waterfront lands that are east of Metchosin Road, which, in our opinion, has the potential for a more destination-based amenities. A mixture of housing types from single-family, townhouse, rental apartments, and condos. New parks and trail facilities. Potential institutional uses, including an elementary school, a fire hall, and a potential civic precinct, as well as a new potential opportunity for seniors' long-term care facility. Strong pedestrian and cycling connections, and finally, a new transit exchange on Latoria Boulevard. More specifically, the approximately 158-acre site in Latoya South has been divided into 10 sub-area precincts, guided by proposed land use policies and zoning regulations. The general breakdown of the proposed land uses is shown on the slide on your screen. The largest of these areas is Area 10, the quarry, comprising approximately 42% of the total site area, with a projected 800 units of ground-oriented residential housing, single detached duplex and townhouses. The remaining lands are part of the commons, areas 1 through 9, which will house approximately 1,300 residential units for a total of 2,100 projected residential units within Latoya South. This is, in fact, towards the lower end of the range proposed in the 2018 official community plan, with our density calculations estimating residential potential of approximately 2,000 to 4,800 units. Therefore, for neighborhood certainty, we are proposing a development cap of 2,100 units of residential in our CD28 zone. Within the commons, the lands to the west of Ryder Hegedal Way, areas 7, 8, and 9, are described as the transition area, which will provide a transition of residential and non-residential uses between the commons and the quarry. Heights in the transition area are a maximum of 4 stories, which also applies to the commons area along Latoya Boulevard. The center of the commons could see heights up to about 6 stories in areas 2 and 4. And completely dependent on the market, the south portion of area 3 could see heights potentially up to 12 stories. This is in keeping with the Seaside Village policies of the OCP, which supports up to 12 stories throughout the commons. The core area of the commons, and the part that we're really most excited to get started on, is the retail village located in area 1. This encompasses approximately 80,000 square feet of daily services, including a 35,000 square foot grocery store, full beer and wine store, pharmacy, daycare, coffee shop, restaurant, or pub. This is the first phase of development in Latoya South, and we are looking forward to moving ahead on this as soon as possible. On the north side of Area 2 is a proposed mixed-use building with retail storefronts framing what is currently called Common Street. This is envisioned as a vibrant pedestrian-oriented main street with angle parking in front of the retail storefronts, as well as the ability to close off the street to traffic to facilitate a farmer's market, street festival, or other community events. We really hope that the retail village becomes the vibrant gathering place and the heart of Royal Bay for both local residents, as well as for all of Colwood and beyond. Areas 5 and 6 have the potential to provide additional employment opportunities and live-work opportunities to further bolster the city's employment and economic tax base. Area 6 also has the potential for a service station for the neighborhood, as the nearest gas station is approximately 5 kilometers away. This facility would include EV charging stations, a car wash, and a restaurant, but would exclude drive-through facilities. We have incorporated the use of a proper design criteria framework to ensure the most appropriate fit within the context of the Royal Bay neighborhood. Similar to residential densities, the OCP policies for the Seaside Village provide ambitious targets for commercial and non-residential development, which have been translated into the proposed CD28 zoning bylaw. As noted by Mr. Carlson, when reviewing the proposed zoning, there is a theoretical potential for approximately 400,000 square meters of non-residential development, even though the sub-area plan states a target of approximately 40,000 square meters. So in order to provide that same clarity as residential, we are willing to place a commercial and non-residential cap of 40,000 square meters, which is 430,000 square feet within the CD28 zoning bylaw at the time of third reading of the bylaw. So it is consistent with our development objectives outlined in the Latoya South sub-area plan. For parks, trails, and open spaces, similar to Latoya North, the development of a connected series of parks and trails is paramount in the design for Latoya South. Adjacent to the proposed 7-acre site for the proposed elementary school is Quarry Park at 10.4 acres. Cablecraft will literally lay the groundwork for a potential active field adjacent to the elementary school field, as well as other active and passive park amenities to create a truly shared community complex. Quarry Park will provide trail connections to Latoya Creek Park, which is being expanded by approximately 3 additional acres in order to protect sensitive habitat, significant trees, and create a wind firm edge. Viewpoints along public trails have been identified, as well as along public road rights of way, including Latoria Boulevard and East-West Collector Roads. An additional neighborhood park in the quarry, as well as urban parks and plazas within the commons, have also been identified in the sub-area plan and will be developed as part of each development cell. Similar to Meadow Park pathway and perimeter pathway connections in Latoria North, we're proposing an additional park perimeter pathway called Old Machosen Trail. And this will provide connections along the southern edge of the quarry to Latoria Creek Park. And it can also serve as a wildlife corridor through Latoria Creek Park and across Latoria South. Finally, the off-road park trails will provide direct linkages to the on-road system of pedestrian and cycling facilities that are shown as red lines on this map, which will connect residential developments to key community destinations like schools and shops. This connected network of multi-use trails and protected cycling facilities provides the AAA network, which supports all ages and abilities for seamless neighborhood connectivity. With respect to transportation and network connectivity, here are a few examples of facilities provided in Latoria North, which we hope to expand upon in Latoria South. One of these includes the creation of a full transit exchange on Latoria Boulevard, adjacent to the commons. This will consist of a 3-bay transit pullout on both sides of the road, as well as additional local stops on Machosen Road and the Ryder-Hesjedal Way extension. We look forward to working with the city and BC Transit on bringing this to fruition. We recognize that traffic is a concern in any proposed development, especially one of this magnitude and time frame. To this end, a number of individual and joint traffic impact studies have been submitted to the city and reviewed by council in advance of this public hearing. In particular, we understand that the potential widening of Latoria Boulevard is of residents' concern with respect to timing. The October 2019 joint traffic memo from Bunt and Watt forecasts traffic volumes to 2040, or a 20-year horizon, based on potential development scenarios for Royal Bay, Royal Beach, Olympic View, and the rest of Colwood. This totals approximately 7,600 units. Potential widening of Latoria Boulevard is not anticipated until 50% build-out, which would equate to approximately 3,800 units. This is well beyond the total build-out of Royal Bay for Latoria North and Latoria South, and is at least 10 years away, if not closer to 15 years based on projected market conditions. Further work will be undertaken by all developers, as well as the city, on a long-term concept for Latoria Road, which addresses not only future traffic, but also potential enhancements and improvements to Latoria Creek itself. We also recognize that parking has been a discussion during our application, and our separate parking study has also been reviewed by the city and endorsed by council in advance of this public hearing. For clarity, all of the off-street parking standards within the quarry for single-family, secondary suites, duplexes, and townhouse developments are staying exactly the same, consistent with the current City of Colwood parking requirements. We are also proposing longer parking scallops on local roads to provide as much on-street parking as possible. With respect to off-street parking in the commons, a review of industry best practices was undertaken, as well as a series of reality checks for comparative sites, based on 11 multifamily residential sites in Colwood and Langford and 5 commercial sites within Greater Victoria. Based on the analysis and actual site counts by 2 separate transportation consultants, it was determined that the existing Colwood parking requirements for multifamily developments could produce an oversupply of parking spaces, especially in a transit-oriented mixed-use environment with AAA cycling and pedestrian facilities. We are confident that the proposed off-street parking requirements for the commons represents a relatively conservative requirement, especially when on-street parking is factored in. Having said this, potential updates every few years to the traffic and parking studies have been built into the development agreement. Now I'll turn it over to Lance Floor to continue the presentation. Lance?
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present at this evening's public hearing. On the slide that you see in front of you entitled The Quarry, you can see many images, and these images are all currently in existence in Latoria North. You can see homes along Sparrowhawk. You can see the West Commons townhomes. You can see a shot within the Murray's Pond area. You can see the play fields up at Royal Bay Secondary School. You can see an aerial shot showing, you know, the built form, the typical built forms in Latoria North. And then we've included an image of an elementary school, as there's a 7-acre elementary school site set aside in the quarry. So the quarry will largely be a continuation of Latoria North. So that's primarily ground-oriented homes, single-family, attached homes, and townhomes. And we hope with Latoria South to bring, you know, even a broader diversity of ground-oriented housing to Royal Bay. As Dan mentioned, Quarry Park will be one of the key public amenities and is located adjacent to the elementary school site. Dan also referenced parking standards for Latoria North, which will essentially be the same as used in the quarry, with the enhancements to the larger scalps to provide more on-street parking. Dan, next slide, please. The images that you see on this slide are all things that you can expect to see built in the Commons. The Commons will be the urban core of Latoria South. And as Dan mentioned, with up to 40,000 meters squared of non-residential development. The conceptual design for the retail village that we'll be sharing later in the presentation is initially 80,000 square feet with grocery, pharmacy, coffee, and other everyday needs. And over time, the retail development can expand to over 100,000 square feet. And this was a concern that a couple of members of council had articulated, that, you know, they wanted to see the ability for retail and commercial to grow as the community built out. So the retail village is scalable as we continue to develop through the Commons, and can expand up to over 100,000 square feet in and around the retail village. Other uses in the Commons include residential, office, institution, cultural, and should the city so choose, the zoning includes civic uses for a possible civic precinct as well. As I mentioned, these are all the kinds of development that you would expect to see in the Commons. So you can see up in the upper left-hand corner a restaurant patio that would be in close proximity to the corner of Ryder and Latoria. You can see an image of a grocery store, which, as Dan mentioned, would be 35,000 square feet. The large image on the center of your screen is very much what you could expect to see built on the south side of Common Street. So there you can see 3 stories of residential above ground-oriented retail. So that is not, that is a build form that you could expect to see built along the south side of Commons Road. The other built forms that you see, you'll notice large roof projections and awnings. These would be what you should expect in the built form, given the nature of our winters in Royal Bay. The ability to get out of the weather, especially when it's raining, would be an important architectural feature in these buildings. You can see in the image what the 5- and 6-story buildings would look like. And then in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you could see what could potentially happen on Common Street. The ability to have markets and street festivals by closing down a segment of Common Street. The image you see there is an image of Beacon Avenue up in Sydney, but we've been intentional through the road cross section for Commons Road to ensure that we'd be able to allow these kinds of uses to happen. A note, and it would apply to some extent to both the quarry and the Commons. You know, we understand that wind and noise are concerns for the development of Latoria South. And, you know, this was discussed, I believe, at the May 11th council meeting, and direction was provided to Royal Bay, to Gablecraft, to, you know, ensure that we consider those things. So in broad terms, our intent is to use building design, site layout, and landscaping to manage, to the extent that it's possible, wind and noise in Latoria South. Included in the public hearing materials was a letter from Gablecraft to the Royal Bay Homeowners Association, where we addressed in fairly specific terms the kinds of measures that that are used to address wind and noise, and also street layout, because there were some suggestions as to street layouts that could help mitigate those factors. And the street layouts are driven by broader considerations that are also enumerated in that letter. So in the letter, there's sort of the specific measures that we would intend to employ, and we've kind of laid out the principles. And many of those principles are already in use in Latoria North on our current townhome projects, and we would continue to use and enhance those principles in Latoria South. And then even further within the Commons, they're addressed through the design guidelines specific to the Commons. Next slide, please, Dan. This is the conceptual design for the Commons retail village. This is an aerial view. And as I mentioned, so this is the purple area in the bubble diagram that you can see to the left of the screen. That right now, the sort of the buildings that are in the conceptual design would take us up to 80,000 square feet. But you'll notice there's a remainder parcel that would correspond to kind of the pink area at the northeast corner of the retail village that would offer some future development. We've mentioned the uses already, and that the retail village will be constructed as quickly as tenant demand allows. So we will come in with a development permit as soon as we've got adoption. We've obviously got site servicing activities, road design, and then the first building that we would actually start would be the grocery store. And as mentioned in our letter to the city, that things like grocery, pharmacy, cold beer and wine, coffee, those are all uses that seem to have sustained reasonably well through COVID. But there's some uses such as restaurant, daycare, financial services that have become, at least the timing of those have become a little less certain due to COVID. In the bubble diagram, there's a smaller orange bubble with the term retail. And that's showing our intent to kind of step the retail out across Commons Street. And we'll show you a little bit more detail on that in the next screen. But the remainder lands within the retail village, we can bring on about 8,000 to 10,000 additional square feet of retail up by the bus simples. And then on the south side of Commons Street, we can bring on about another 17,000 square feet. And I think we'll show you more detail in the next slide as to how we would achieve that. Dan, over to you. This is just a quick little view into the retail village from Commons Street. So we're looking north from Commons Street back up towards Sparrowhawk. You can see the coffee shop in the second story detail. You can see where the daycare would be. And then on the right-hand side of that driveway would be the front entry to the grocery store. And you know, the specifics of the architecture would be more the subject of the development permit. But largely where those uses exist within the conceptual design are reflected in this picture. Next slide, yeah. This has been the subject of the letter where we were explaining to council how we could step out additional retail development in the context of the retail village. And so very briefly, this is the north side of development area 2. On your map, it's shown as residential, office, institutional. This is what completes the south side of Commons Street. And you can see the angled parking. So if you can visualize on maybe evenings or mornings when Commons Street was closed for a market or a festival, that those angled parking stalls help create the additional area to help facilitate those events. One other thing I'd like to draw your attention to, if you look sort of south towards the bottom of the screen from the building annotated with the letter D, you can see additional surface parking. And that additional surface parking would be for the retail and commercial visitors to Commons Street. So all of the other uses, the residential would be underground parking, but we provided for additional surface parking to support those residential uses. Next slide, Dan. So this gives you a sense of what Common Street would look like as it begins to build out. So that the image we showed you looking into the retail village, you can see the daycare, you can see the coffee, you can see the corner of the grocery store on the north side of the street. We're looking west back down towards Ryder Hedgedal. So, you know, in the distance, you can see the 4-story buildings that would be on the western side of Ryder Hedgedal. And then on the left side of the screen, again, you can see that build form that's very similar to what we showed in the picture at the beginning of the common section. So you can see the 3 stories of residential above ground floor retail. So I think this is quite a realistic depiction of what Commons Road could look like as it builds out. You can see there's enhanced treatments in terms of the surface of the road, enhanced landscaping, and as we pointed out, the angled parking that would facilitate the other events on Commons Road. Next slide, Dan. This is another image looking north along Ryder Hedgedal. So here we're looking back towards Latoria, up Ryder. And again, on the left-hand side of Ryder, you can see the 4-story uses that you can expect to see in the transition zone. So those could be office, those could be mixed use, they could be purely residential buildings. It could be a civic precinct. And then on the right-hand side, if you look just over the yellow car to help orient you on this scene, you can see the southwest corner of the retail village. So that's where Common Street would intersect with Ryder Hedgedal. Next slide, please, Dan. You know, we've had many questions about scheduling and when people could realistically expect to see the retail village in particular start. So this schedule has us still largely on track with zoning and adoption happening before autumn. The balance of this year, you largely wouldn't see a lot of activity out on site other than grading. And at that point, we'd be going through the detailed technical submissions to the city for infrastructure, for road design, for the development permit for the retail village, servicing for the retail village. So you could expect to see vertical construction in the retail village start largely early 2021. So you would see construction occurring all throughout 2021 with ideally the grocery store opening in early 2022. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the grocery store would be among the first buildings to be built in the retail village, and then subsequent buildings would continue to be built as we build out and lease up the retail village. And then the final screen, again, this would be controlled by the province and by school district number 62, but we've got the site earmarked for the elementary school. So I would submit that you should expect to see construction probably happening sometime in a window in the next 3 to 5 years. So we just wanted to provide kind of a realistic update on the schedule. And with that concludes my part of the presentation. And we'll leave it there for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we are going to move on to 5 written submissions. There were 49 written submissions were received prior to noon today, and council has been provided those. And so we will move on to 6, which is public input. We are now seeking public input. There are 7 people who have registered to speak, but that does not limit that. If you are watching online, you do have the ability to also call in. Amanda, will we be putting that screen up right now for people? The 800 number?
Yes, I can put it up right now. Just a moment.
Okay.
I'm just going to have to unshare this. Okay.
So while Amanda's doing that, if you are watching the meeting live and wish to speak to the bylaw, please follow the instructions on the screen that will show up in a minute. If you do wish to speak for or against the proposed bylaw, please raise your virtual hand by pressing *9 on your phone, and you will be put in the queue to speak. You will be identified by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Now, there are 7 people who have registered to speak, so we will just be Staff will just be introducing those individuals one at a time. But if you are not one of the 7 who have registered, please call in. And then, as I said, press *9, and that will put you in the queue for an opportunity to also speak. So I will look to staff to introduce the first person.
Oh,
Or am I doing that, Amanda?
okay, I'm just going to have to unshare my screen to do that because I can't.
Okay,
see
well,
anything.
okay, well, I can see people, so I will just,
Okay.
I will, unfortunately, I'm just gonna go with my list that's in front of me. The first name I have is 520 Kelly Moran. Kelly, are you there?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time this evening. My wife, Deidre, and I wanted to express our strong support for the plans for Latoria South. We also want to recognize the progress to date that's allowed us to become a part of this community. We moved here from Sandwich last year for many reasons. Good home value, access to great walking trails and the beach, and future that the developers presented. We have been looking all over Vancouver Island for a neighborhood where you could walk to the grocery store, the coffee shop, access nature, and feel a part of the community. We could see from both the development to date and the plans for the future that this was where we wanted to be. The development we can see today is an amazing start, but we really need the next set of plans and sketches to become reality. That requires ongoing involvement and support of the community and the City of Colwood, working in a positive environment with the developers. We know it won't be perfect for everyone, nothing ever is, but it needs to be done well and done in a reasonable time frame. We're lending our voices to many in our neighborhood who are looking forward to the plans being realized so that they can shop locally, have access to a range of housing options, and to gain expanded access to the natural beauty of Royal Bay. We will continue to support thoughtful, balanced development as we share in the path to making this vision a reality. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next person on my list is 355, Jennifer Grander. I'm hoping I got that right. I think I got it wrong. But Jennifer, are you there? Jennifer, presently you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer Granger, and I live at 372 Kestrel Street. I am a member of the Royal Bay Community Association, but tonight I'm calling in as a resident and a parent to voice our family's support for this development to move forward. My husband and I have 2 young children, and to be straightforward, I want them to have a future here in this community. I don't want to have to move so they can grow up in an area with amenities nearby. I want them to have extended parks and trails to explore as they grow. I want them to be able to have the option of a part-time job close to home. I want them to have access to transit and cycling infrastructure. And I sincerely hope that the elementary school will be announced in time, if not for our oldest, perhaps for our youngest. We took a chance on the vision of Royal Bay coming to be when we moved our family here, and believe that the amendments before council tonight and over the coming days will realize that. To sum up, we have put our roots down here because we believed Royal Bay would provide an incredible environment to raise our children in. Our 4-year-old son in particular loves living next to the ocean and adores his neighborhood. Our 2-year-old daughter is constantly amazed by the many birds and other wildlife that fill Meadow Park Greenway. I want our community to grow with them so that they can continue to be proud to call this place home. I hope that council will support our family's choice to live here and continue forward with this development project in Latoria South. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Moving on, I do not have a name, but the last 3 digits of your phone number is 660. And you just unmuted yourself, so I think that's you. Sorry, we are having a hard time hearing you. I see
Hello?
on my, oh, there we go. Yep, please
Hi.
go ahead. You can just introduce your,
Oh, sorry.
just introduce yourself and sorry, and I didn't do this for the first 2 people, but if you can please say your name and your address, that would be great. Sorry, I'm just confirming, just a moment. I'm just confirming if I need address. I don't think I do. So if you could just share your name with us, please.
Okay, and Mayor Martin, I just wanted to ask a question. Sorry, my name's Kim Jordison, and my address is 3429 Hopwood Place. And is this an opportunity where I can ask a question?
Yeah, you may ask a question of staff or the developer. Council is only to receive information.
Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I just have a question. I just wanted to try and find out where seniors housing, seniors friendly housing, and affordable housing is in this plan, and that's basically my question. If it's been, I know it's been discussed, and I just want to know if there's any option to include this in the plan, or what the actual plans for that are.
Okay, I will look to either staff or the proponent. Do either one of you wish to comment on that? I don't see.
Nope, we can do it. We can do that, Mayor Martin.
Your worship,
Sorry, sorry to interrupt. I realize we've got several people. I'm going to go to Brent first. Mr. Mullen.
Thanks, Your Worship. I will defer to Dennis. Actually, it was ready to speak. We're both sharing the same screen. Thank you, sir.
So in response to the question, there are policy statements within the Latoria South Sub-Area Plan. More specifically, many of the zones that have been included in the draft zone also specifically include housing for a range of uses such as seniors, congregate care. So, and it certainly would permit the possibility of affordable housing.
Okay, did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I guess I just want to maybe express my desire for the city of Colwood and this development to make that a priority. I just don't know where else in Colwood we would put it, and I think that may be lagging in council's direction.
Okay, thank you. I do not wish
Thank
to. If you have anything else to add, I don't want to stop.
No,
you.
that's everything. Thank you. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to move on to, unfortunately, again, I don't have a name, but it ends with 050.
Hello, it's Warren Brown.
Thank you, Warren. If you could just state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Warren Brown. I live at 3529 Proudfoot Place. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for this opportunity to comment on the rezoning application for Latoria South. I think it represents a tremendous opportunity. I'm pleased to see it moving forward. The commercial development in particular and the attendant tax base will be a welcome addition, I think, to the Royal Bay and to Colwood. My comments come from a background of having actually built commercial and residential. So I don't do this frivolously. I know how busy you guys are and how dedicated you are to the work you do. However, I do take issue with some of the things I see in the rezoning application. And as it states in many municipal documents, the mayor and council want to work with landowners to arrive at acceptable solutions. Overall, I've supported the development of Latoria North, where there's about 770 units. And it demonstrates, in my mind, an appropriate density for Colwood. Respect for lot size and reasonable sized homes appears to be working. So it fundamentally provides us with a template. It's not the Point Grey development that the real estate agent sold us on, but it's good. I've in three parts here, two sort of to the point and one that is a bit of a supplement. Part one is really the fact that we have an observable template in Latoria North. It's actually a larger piece of land than Latoria than Latoria South. I did some mapping, and fundamentally, the land in Latoria North is mostly used for homes and supporting infrastructure. In other words, I think it's an efficient use of land. The rezoning act in Latoria South is proposing somewhere between 1,850 and 2,700 units. That was the original. And so they could be apartments or homes, so I understand the range of units indicates that this could be quite broad. However, I never saw the rationale for that. In the Times Colonist, I saw them the developers stick a stake in the ground around 2,100 units, of which 800 are what they call ground-oriented homes, i.e. single-family, multifamily dwelling, rather than apartments. So let's work with that. Latoria South is overall a smaller property. Moreover, there's an extensive part of Latoria that is given over to commercial enterprises, a school, parks, civic center, and a fire hall. By my calculation, fundamentally, it's about 50% of the land that's available in Latoria North. Hence, reasonable lot sizes were retained. We're looking at room for about 385 homes. So what I'm saying is, if Latoria North was reasonable, how can you have 800 that's being proposed by the developer? I'm concerned that we might have reduced lot sizes, reduced curb area for parking. When you build a curve in a cul-de-sac, you leave a lot less room for parking on the street. So you're going to end up, in my mind, with something that's going to look like West Hills. I don't mean to denigrate the folks that have bought into West Hills, but it's something that the mayor has stated that he doesn't want. And fundamentally, you've got to look at the details here to see that 385 ground-oriented homes might appear to be reasonable in the quarry. Second part of my point is around apartment heights in the commons. Apartment heights and buildings, even in tonight's presentation, have been schmoozed at 4 to 5 stories in public presentations. In the Times Colonist article, the developer stated that the commons would be 4 to 6 stories. And so if they're selling that height, I would propose that the council simply limit building heights in the commons to 4 stories, particularly in Area 3. Commercial development is the priority in the commons. Any additional leverage by adding apartments should be limited. The purpose of apartments is to provide a stable business base for commercial properties. And what we're seeing here is, I think, the potential, unless the council actually puts a limit on this, for the developer to come back and go, oh, well, gee, you know, I can't make this commercial viable unless I go to 12 stories. If you want to do that, there's lots of room on what I keep getting mixed up here, but it's the west or the south side of the area in Latoria South, where you might put higher homes or higher apartment blocks. And frankly, they would be close to school areas or areas where there's recreation. I mean, if you live in an apartment during the next pandemic, you're going to want a place to be able to get out and out and about. In fact, that seems to be a trend. And one of the things that concerns me here is that with the increased number of density that we've got, they're not building to what I see is potentially saleable product for people who are going to be working from home, confined to their homes if there's another pandemic, or in other words, people who need space to move around. So fundamentally, I think we have a case here of where we're questioning or asking, what's the integrity of the developer around heights, and can we trust them to deliver what they've been selling as a part of their story? Part 3 isn't particularly urgent, but it's about the fire hall. The fire hall, I'm unsure of why this is even a part of this deal. I took a look at what View Royal came in at. They came in at about $5.7 million in capital costs. So that's a relatively new fire hall, and that cost didn't include the cost of land, equipment, fire engines, startup costs such as training. So what I'm looking at, I did some math here and said, well, if there's 5,000 dwellings in the Latoria area, Latoria North, or the Seacliff properties, and including the Olympic View area, if we look at the noted amenity charges, it would only generate about $2.6 million, which is far short of the budget for a fire hall. and certainly far, far short of the need for the money that would be put into engines and so on. And of course, you have the ongoing costs. I also did some mapping, and frankly, the most central location in Colwood is the current location. And by the way, it meshes quite nicely with the new fire hall in View Royal and with the Langford Fire Hall. Also, there's adequate land for expansion on the land at the current location, land that's already owned by the city. So what I would recommend is that the mayor and council mandate and increase the amenity costs that the developer is proposing, and that they use those monies for expansion in the current location. By using the current location, the developer gains back the proffered land for further profitable use. So fundamentally, it takes the cost of land out of the equation and gives the council more funds for startup and so on. Fundamentally, though, one of the other things is that a more centralized location probably provides more efficiencies in management and crewing. So those are my comments. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Warren. Moving on to 122, Mr. Bronson. Kendra? I don't see her unmuting herself. Oh, there she goes. She unmuted. There is unfortunately a delay. So Kendra, are you there? Kendra? Kendra has unmuted herself. So unfortunately, Kendra, we can't hear you. I'm just going to wait for a moment. Oh, there we go.
Hi, I have no comments, Dad.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then to 329, Renee Olson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you to Dan and Lance from Gablecraft for the excellent presentation. I trust everyone can hear me?
We can.
Excellent. So tonight I'd like to speak to traffic considerations as it relates to the OCP amendment. Royal Bay, in my opinion, is positioned to become a jewel in the Greater Victoria area. With a sweeping seaside landscape and a passionate community that has a desire to support progressive government policy and thoughtful development, I think we're positioned very well to be one of the most outstanding communities in the Greater Victoria area. A seaside community has been sold to the folks who purchased north of Latoria Boulevard. Well, what does that mean to the residents who live here? It means we desire a charming, vibrant, walkable community that prioritizes people, not vehicles. While I understand the complexity of moving people to and from Royal Bay, supporting a proposal to expand Latoria Boulevard to 4 lanes of traffic will immediately disqualify Royal Bay from being a charming seaside community. 4 lanes of traffic evokes freeway, not stop, shop, visit, and meander. Notwithstanding, from the corner of Metchosin to West Commons, Council has previously approved single-family and mid-density housing. Introducing 4 lanes on single-family frontage seems like a major afterthought. Communities like Edmonton, Alberta have most recently removed minimum parking restrictions in an effort to encourage mass transportation use and to decrease a carbon footprint. We're also witnessing a major shift in how it is now acceptable for people to work from home and how most major industries are embracing a work from home model that will further decrease traffic on our highways. At the height of the pandemic, Watt Consulting reported 30% plus decrease in traffic on all major arteries. Thus, I would encourage staff and council to look at trends that are unfolding quickly before approving infrastructure changes that will be a detriment to the environment and that may prove unnecessary. Please focus on moving people by bus, bicycle, and by ferry. I would much rather see a developer contribution to pedestrian ferry service than a 4-lane expansion. As well, Seacliff and Gablecraft should be encouraged to provide electric car share, electric bike share, and bus passes for all residents. I'd like to share a quote from Simon O'Byrne, who's a Senior Vice President with Stantec. During COVID, local economic development must be prioritized over commuting speeds. Businesses along main and high streets and in downtown and town centers will not survive if parking lots and/or lanes and vehicle lanes are not converted to the public realm. Restaurants and retailers need to move outside and take over these spaces, or they won't survive. We need to completely rethink about the role of our streets and the outcomes that we want from them. The next step following that is to redesign the public realm for four-season design. I absolutely support density in Royal Bay, and I support thoughtful commercial development. It's my hope that staff and council continue to encourage the developer to embrace charming and West Coast design in all architectural aesthetic, and to continue to support bike paths and parks that connect the community to nature and to each other. I do not support the 4-lane expansion of Latoria Boulevard. Please do reconsider and work to support thoughtful development that supports the City of Colwood's climate action policy. Thanks so much for your time this evening.
Moving on, the next one on my list is 569, Kat McMicken. I'm hoping I got that right too. And I'm just waiting for her. There, yeah, she's unmuted.
Hi there, sorry about that.
Okay.
My name is Kat McMicken. I am a community representative with the Royal Bay Community Association. Good evening, and thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening. We understand the importance of this public hearing and believe that our voices need to be heard. The Royal Bay Community Association is calling in this evening in support of the Latoria Self-Development Project. We believe the amendments before the public tonight regarding bylaw number 1700-03 and bylaw number 1825 will bring substantial benefit to not only our local area in Royal Bay, but also in the City of Colwood through additional amenities, retail, commercial space, and more housing that is desperately needed for many. Royal Bay is already a vibrant place to live, but there are still pieces of the puzzle missing. The Latoria Self-Development Project is one of those critical pieces. It is the piece that begins to unlock Royal Bay's potential and puts us on the track to becoming a seaside destination area. The changes proposed are transformative, and we are greatly encouraged by the development approach taken so far in Latoria North. With similar design concepts planned for in Latoria South that will further incorporate significant public space, the plans will enhance the overall region as well as vastly improve the quality of life for residents. The Royal Bay Community Association recognizes that the proposed amenities are not viable without the support of increased density. The density envisioned for the area is comfortably in the line of with the official community plan. It signifies an appropriate compromise between the ability to serve those in need of housing and those who would like to see a lower degree of density. Without this density, it is possible that retail and commercial businesses such as grocery stores, restaurant pubs, daycares, or potential banks or even credit unions would not have the necessary markets. Further to the point of density, we are pleased the development will offer a range of housing options such as condominiums, townhouses, single-family homes, and hopefully one day rental housing. We believe this will support a diversity of needs and also bring balance to the community. The economic opportunity presented by the proposed retail and commercial space is also of significance to Colwood's financial planning and economic future. Furthermore, the proposed quarry park, potential two viewpoints, and networks of trails will continue the theme of connectivity that has already been established in Latoria North. Creating a walkable and accessible community promotes connection with neighbors and supports a healthy and environmentally friendly lifestyle. We also believe the proposed social and green spaces could be used for a range of events, promoting awareness of Colwood as a destination. We look forward to Royal Bay growing as a place to live, work, and/or play for all residents. It is our hope that this increased density will also bring much-needed transit to the region. The proposed transit exchange along Latoria Boulevard and Metchosin Road will provide commuters with a viable alternative. We understand traffic in an area of is an area of concern, and we were encouraged to learn that the conversation regarding traffic will continue as studies will be updated every 3 years or more as warranted. If it were not clear already, the Royal Bay Community Association strongly supports this project moving ahead. It is our hope to see shovels in the ground in the fall, or even earlier, once the appropriate agreements and permits are approved. Our opportunity is now. It is time for the City of Colwood to step forward and seize it. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I hope that you all have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I'm just going to pause just for a moment for those people who are watching on live stream. And if you have not registered to speak, but you would like to participate this evening, you can call us at 1-855-703-8985. On screen, you can see the meeting ID number and the password to enter. And then if you could please press *9, and that will put you in the queue to speak. Moving on to our next person, it is 660 Kim Jordanson. Kim, are you there?
I already spoke.
You already spoke. My apologies then. I will move on to 690 John English. John? Oh, there you go,
Thank
John.
you very much. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the Royal Bay Homeowners Association. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association was set up in February of this year as a nonprofit member-funded organization registered with the Government of British Columbia with a mandate to monitor development plans within the community and to take action to preserve, protect, and enhance the quality of life and property values of homeowners living in and around Royal Bay in accordance with the City of Colwood's new community-driven official community plan. The new community-driven official community plan was developed over 2 years, thousands of hours of community consultation, and the expenditure of tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' monies. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association is not associated with any developer. It does not seek or receive any support or beneficial treatment from any developer. It does not solicit or expect future benefits from any developer, either in the near term or the long term. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association is comprised of Colwood citizens who are homeowners, property taxpayers, and voters. Many of our members have contributed in the development of the city's new community-driven OCP and are intimately knowledgeable of its substance and its intent. When it was created only 2 years ago, it was created with the intent that the new community-driven OCP was to provide the overarching framework and guidelines for development within the City of Colwood and for the Royal Bay area through into 2038. The homeowners banded together to establish the Royal Bay Homeowners Association due to past events where developers had submitted requests to the city to amend existing bylaws and the OCP in a manner that would be harmful to the quality of life and property value of existing homeowners, and due to city staff and sometimes council appearing to be supportive of that. Examples are more concerned with accommodating developers than protecting existing homeowners and taxpayers and voters, more concerned with accommodating developers than considering past representations that developers in the city have made to existing homeowners, and more concerned with accommodating developers than providing the direction necessary to realize the vision for Royal Bay that is embodied in the new community-driven OCP. Some examples of that go back in time, but are also recent. City staff and some council members were supportive of a developer's request to rezone lots behind Promenade Crescent in Royal Bay, even though the developer's representative explained that the rezoning was...
Mr. English,
Yep.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to ask you to speak to what's proposed on the public hearing this evening. You're drifting a little away from Latoria South, and so I would ask that you stay focused on that this evening.
Okay, I think this is all relevant to what we're saying, and we do get an opportunity to share our thoughts, right? So I just ask you to bear with me, and I promise you will see the relevance of all of this. We were concerned that the city staff and council were supporting rezoning because a developer had paid too much for some land, and that support would have clearly damaged the privacy, quality of life, and property values of existing homeowners living along Promenade Crescent. And again, a similar situation arose with respect to 360 Latoria Boulevard, where the city staff again supported a developer's proposal to seek changes to the OCP and to zoning, which would be harmful to the privacy, quality of life, and property values of homeowners living around that area on Riderhead-Stall Way and associated streets. This was particularly pointing to many of those homeowners because a number of them had bought their homes in the expectation that a neighborhood house was to be built at that location as an amenity for the community. This expectation was based upon representations given to them by both developers, realtors, and by the city. So this is showing you where we're coming from. And the Royal Bay Homeowners Association does support development in Royal Bay and throughout Colwood that will deliver the overall vision and benefits outlined in the OCP as well as its specific objectives. It's our understanding that the spirit and intent of the OCP includes an expectation that development will also be carried out in a manner that is considerate and respectful of existing homeowners, property taxpayers, and voters. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association believes that it is both reasonable and that development be conducted as a win-win situation, a win for existing homeowners, taxpayers in the city, as well as a win for developers. In general terms, the Royal Bay Homeowners Association is supportive of Gablecraft Homes development plans. There are many features of Gablecraft's proposed development plans in Latoria South that our association supports. In particular, we would like to recognize and express our appreciation and support for Mr. Floor and Gablecraft Homes for their plans to include a large grocery store in Phase 1 of the Royal Bay Commons area. Building a successful business center in the Commons area is critical to realizing the OCP objective of diversifying the city's tax base. We believe that Gablecraft Homes proposal is fully consistent with and supportive of the vision for the Commons commercial area embedded in the OCP. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association does, however, continue to have some concerns that we have previously raised with both Gablecraft Homes and with the city. On May 11th, meeting motions, City Council meeting, motions were passed directing that Gablecraft Homes take steps to address concerns that the homeowners had raised that Gablecraft's development plans along Latoria South were likely to exacerbate noise and wind problems along Latoria for nearby homeowners. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association suggested what it felt would be a reasonable solution and respectfully requested that Gablecraft Homes consider the suggestion. In addition to addressing wind and noise amplification problems, the Royal Bay Homeowners Association proposed a solution that would address loss of privacy concerns. On July 7th, Mr. Floor, president of Gablecraft Homes, forwarded a letter to the Royal Bay Homeowners Association on this subject. While the Royal Bay Homeowners Association was and remains open to Gablecraft Homes using their greater access to resources and expertise to come up with different solutions to what we had suggested for consideration, we did expect to see that Gablecraft would acknowledge the concerns that have been raised and would commit to taking some additional actions to address those concerns. Unfortunately, after reviewing the letter from Mr. Flores, we have to say that we are disappointed. It appears that Gablecraft Homes is not planning to take additional steps or measures to respond to the City Council resolution on May 11th to address these concerns, other than what they had already planned to do. In keeping with the spirit and intent of the City Council decision on May 11th, the Royal Bay Homeowners Association respectfully requests that City Council direct staff to advise Gablecraft Homes to consider and identify specific additional steps
that will be taken to mitigate the risk of their development plans along Latoria Boulevard and Latoria Road, exacerbating noise and wind problems for existing homeowners. The Royal Bay Homeowners Association has communicated our opposition and reasons for opposition to the staff recommendation to reduce the number of parking spaces that developers are required to provide in the Commons area in Royal Bay and in parts of Royal Beach. Our most recent communication opposing the reduction of the minimum number of parking spaces was given today to the Mayor and Council in the roles in the Finance Committee. So I will not go over that material again at this time. We thank you very much for your consideration, and we do want to reiterate that we see a lot of good things in what Gablecraft is proposing, and we want to express our appreciation for that, but we also would like to see the concerns that have previously been raised actually addressed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to, I do not have a name, but the last 3 digits is 964.
That's me. It's me. It's Mark Salter.
Mark, if you could just, you just said your name, but if you could just tell us your address.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council and Gablecraft representative. It's Mark Salter, a new property owner at the Compass Developments at Victoria North.
Okay, thank you.
You have me at a bit of a disadvantage. I haven't been able to watch the live stream. I'm working remote right now, so I don't have the advantage of seeing the slideshow. But I did review a package of materials that was made available online for the bylaw preparation. However, one comment was the PDF format. I reviewed it last week, and unfortunately, the PDF quality wasn't sufficient for the note to Mayor and Council and your team. Couldn't blow it up enough to actually read some of the legends on the mapping. I'm the CRD's environmental advisory, environmental award winner for 2011, and I work in community development and around the Greater Victoria area and around parks and public space use for the growing of food. I'm an organic master gardener, and as such, I'm viewed particularly the purchase of our home in the Royal Bay as the potential for its unique landscape redevelopment, as this has been a quarried site, and there's an opportunity for Colwood and the developer to do some amazing things to bring that land back to its former glory and respect the local environment, as it were, along with the traditions of our local First Nations, the Lekwungen speaking peoples of the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, whose traditional land we'll be living upon. And so my concern with material I was able to read and dissect through the mapping and so forth relates to specifically some of the park reductions and some of the comments in the opening summaries regarding park area ratios changing in size. So rather than have a bunch of small spaces, group them all back into some larger open spaces, namely they're up to a quarry space, turn around by the school space and so forth. We know there are riparian zones that have been restored through the site, through reclamation around the creek beds and so forth. And I would want to express my opposition or concern around the reduction of the green space ratios, in so much as in making a walkable community, which is something that I've spent a lot of my specialty in as an organic master gardener, and making complete restored ecosystems and using regenerative growing processes so systems can look after themselves. We don't have to keep putting inputs into them. And that's where the opportunities abound in the Royal Bay development, and having sustainable organic management systems that can clear themselves and allow future costs. But the issue around placemaking and bringing people together and around plants and respecting nature, the loss of small parklets and breakaway spaces that are evident in the north side of the development, there's any reduction of those, I would want to be opposed to that. I do believe this is a great move forward. I applaud the leadership from Gablecraft and their desire to, in their phase 1 opening, commit to the commercial space development. It's critical to bringing this community to life. But I do want to say that the ratios around parks and the ratios on how the parks are used, I haven't been able to read all the details, all the proposals yet. I'm sure there's an update from the developer today. I'd like to know more about some of the changes they're proposing. But if the ratios are going to change, if the size of the parklets are going to get smaller or disappearing with the bigger spaces, I'll be opposed to that. That would be my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is all that I have on the list. So I am going to go back to the public. If you are watching online and you wish to participate, if you can please call 1-855-703-8985 and then follow the prompts. And on the screen, you can see the meeting ID number and the password. And I will look to anybody on the phone that is still presently on the phone and wishes to speak a second time. If you could raise your hand for me. If you don't know how to raise your hand, you could also unmute yourself and say you would wish to speak a second time. I'm just going to pause for a moment and just see if anybody new logs in, or if somebody wishes to speak a second time.
So if Mayor Martin, excuse
Yes.
me, if someone wants to speak, they just need to press *9 and that will raise their hand. And then you can select them that way.
Great, thank you, Amanda, I appreciate that. I guess I should read my notes. Okay, I will now call for a second time. Again, if you are watching the meeting live and wish to speak to the bylaw, please follow the instructions on the screen. If you would like to speak for or against the proposed bylaw, please raise your virtual hand by pressing *9 on your phone. And again, I am just going to just wait a moment and see if there's anyone else wishing to participate. And I do apologize to everybody. It does feel like a long time when I do pause, but it really isn't. And for people who are watching online, unfortunately, there is about a 10-second delay. So we have to wait 10 seconds before they even know that they should be calling in. So hence the reason why I'm just pausing a little longer. And while we're waiting, I would like to say thank you to the public in general, just for being patient with us as we attempt to do this public hearing virtually. It's very much appreciated that everybody has been very understanding. I will call a third and final time. Again, a reminder that if you are watching the meeting live and wish to speak to the bylaw, please follow the instructions on the screen. We will wait a few minutes to ensure that you have time to reach us. If you would like to speak for or against the proposed bylaw, please raise your virtual hand by pressing *9 on your phone. It is 7:20 presently, and I'm going to wait till 7:22. So I'm going to give people exactly 2 minutes to just sort of log in and raise their virtual hands. I am still not seeing anybody who wishes to speak. So we're just going to wait until that 7:22. And I apologize that you probably don't want to even hear my voice, but I don't want to not be speaking at all and then people thinking that it's frozen. Amanda?
Yes. Oh, I
I
have
s-
someone. I
yeah.
have someone new coming in. Just a moment.
Yeah. And it looks like this person is unmuted. And I am just going to say the last 3 digits of your phone number. So your last 3 digits is 913. If you could just state your name and address for us, and then if you could share your thoughts, that would be appreciated.
Good evening, Mayor Martin. It's Trevor Apperly, 3535 Promenade Crescent. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at the public hearing this evening. I'll be quick. I've just got a question concerning the parking. I understand there's going to be parking, or there has been a parking amendment. Now, I'm not sure whether it's in the rezoning or the amendment to the OCP. I believe it's the rezoning. And I'd like to know whether or not
that parking amendment applies to Royal Beach or to lands in Royal Beach and to lands in Latoria South?
Okay, I will look to staff. Again, I don't think we can comment this evening on Royal Beach, but you are asking a question in regards to the bylaw regarding the Latoria South. And so I think staff can answer that portion of the question for you. I will look to staff.
Your worship, the parking ratios are included in the zoning bylaw for Latoria South. There was a council resolution regarding the amended parking standards for both Latoria South and Royal Beach. But those actual parking standards would be pending an actual zoning bylaw amendment coming forward to council regarding Royal Beach.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carson. So if that's the case, does there have to be a separate application to change the parking for Royal Beach, or is it captured in the amendment that's going through this evening for the land use amendment?
Okay, thank you. Before staff answers, I'm actually going to look to our CAO because just the way my notes are written, that we are supposed to be quite focused to not be speaking of anything outside of what is the statement for the public hearing this evening. Should we be commenting on Royal Beach this evening, Mr. Earl?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. The zoning bylaw and the OCP amendment that are party of this public hearing this evening only affect Latoria South, and those lands were described earlier in the evening. Nothing in the public hearing tonight affects the Royal Beach lands.
Thank you. And we should not, and just to confirm, we should not be commenting on Royal Beach lands this evening?
This public hearing is for the bylaws that are before you, and they affect the Latoria South lands.
Great, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. That answers my question. And so long as the amendment to the OCP and the rezoning amendment and the changes to the land use bylaw only apply to Latoria South, and the parking only applies to Latoria South, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. And I would go on to say that the development, as it has been put forward by Gablecraft, is a superb development. And as a taxpayer in Colwood, I am fully supportive of the work that has been done in Latoria North by Gablecraft and the work that they plan to do in Latoria South. I would echo some of the comments, however, that were made by Warren Brown and a couple of the others concerning expansion of or widening of Latoria Boulevard. It seems interesting that all of that new road work that's been done on Latoria Boulevard to date would be pulled out to create 4 and 5 lane road through there. I would echo Warren's comments about the fire hall. It seems a little early to be including that in the discussion this evening. And I would echo the comments around the orientation of buildings along Latoria Boulevard. So with that, I thank you for your time, and good luck with the rest of the public hearing.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. We are on, this was a call, a third and final time for participants. So I am actually going to do it one final time. Again, a reminder that if you are watching the meeting live and wish to speak to the bylaw, please follow the instructions on the screen. And I'm going to wait one more minute, excuse me, to 7:28 before I call the meeting over. Just waiting to see if we have any other comments. And again, I apologize that you're stuck listening to my voice, but I just don't want it to be completely silent and people think that the meeting has ended. We're going to wait just a couple more moments. And we are at that now. So seeing that we don't seem to have any other participants, I will move to 7, adjournment. Being no further input, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this public hearing. Council, may I have a motion from someone, please? That is moved by Councillor Logan, seconded by Councillor Kobayashi. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Any in opposition? Just a moment, I need to lower everybody's hands. Any in opposition? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, all.